Who's more to blame for the disappointing season that the Chicago Bulls have had? Is it head coach Billy Donovan? Is it the front office in Acme? Or the players? We're going to talk about who needs to be held most accountable for where the Bulls season went. We're also going to talk about which Bulls are the most expendable players in this upcoming offseason. We're going to talk about that, plus dive into the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, right off the top, if you want to follow me, you can do so at CEO Hayes. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at Bulls Central Pod. But anyway, thank you for joining us on another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Now, jumping right into it, I want to talk about this and piggyback off a topic that we talked about over on Locked On Bulls. We asked, who's more to blame for where the Bulls currently sit at right now? With the disappointing season that the Bulls have had, even though playing much better since the All-Star break, even though they're probably going to get into the play-in tournament, who's more to blame for the disappointing season that the Bulls have had? Is it Billy Donovan as head coach for failing in many areas as a head coach and not really developing or using players always the best that they should be used or in the proper situations? Is it AK and Eversley for building the roster that the team currently has? Or are the players for starting off disappointing in Zach LaVine at times, Ayo Dosunmu not progressing and really taking a step back, Patrick Williams not being aggressive? Where should the most of it rely on? And while it's not any one party should be more to blame for any other one, in my opinion, you really have to look at it and evaluate the fact that everyone has their part in where the Chicago Bulls are right now, and the fact that we have not had the season that we deserved or that we thought we were going to have and build off of from last season. So when you look at this, Billy Donovan has his failings as a head coach. There are times where he does not go to the hot hand. His schemes leave much to be desired. His defense as well, it's like he does not adjust to what other teams are doing to the Chicago Bulls very often, very regularly, or in ways that is important and meaningful. And with that being said, it leaves us in a situation to where we have to definitely question the extension that Billy Donovan was given. Now, regardless of whatever that was, we know that Billy Donovan is not being fired. It's not going to be fired. And I know some Bulls fans still don't like hearing that and still hold out hopes that we're going to fire Billy Donovan and hire Ime Udoka. It's not happening, right? He's going to be back here. Another entity that's going to be back is Acme. The AK and Eversley, the front office of the Bulls, the president of basketball operations, and the GM who have built this roster. And even after the trade deadline, and a trade deadline, and AK decided that we were going to be fairly quiet in, he talked about the team as if we were going to play better, that the shooting wasn't an issue. And those things have absolutely played a part in the Chicago Bulls season. So when you look at this, right, even AK saying that, after this in February, saying that this is just a collection of information. These next, at that time, 28 games of where we are. Now, we've played the majority of those 28 games. We played 23 out of them. We have 5 games left on the season. And so the evaluation period that AK talked about and mentioned in that quote, you have to be coming close to the end of that evaluation and know what this team is and who or not you're going to bring back. Yes, Billy Donovan is coming back. Whether it's right, it's wrong, whether we agree, disagree, whatever it is, Billy Donovan will be back as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. That brings its own things. But we cannot overlook the fact that this is a roster that AK and Eversley built. And also a coach that they went after and brought in hype development, and he ain't developed a goddamn thing. Now, we can also put some of that on the players. Zach LaVine is not the highest IQ basketball player, and he hasn't played the best at the beginning of the season, but he's been playing damn good since you got him an actual point guard, which highlights what the work that we need to do in the offseason is, right? You can look at head coach Billy Donovan, I already mentioned him. You can look at, DeMar DeRozan being a quote-unquote ball hog, as people label him. Nikola Vucevic not being the defender because people seem to just look at what Vuce doesn't do and forget what he does amazingly. But when you really look at it, it's a collection of all those things. But here's the thing. We're not here to place blame and to figure out really who's more at fault for where we are. It's who's more at fault for getting us where we need to get us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, lies at the feet of AK and Eversley as the people leading this franchise. Yes, Billy Donovan can coach better. Yes, Billy Donovan can do not rely on small ball so much. All those things are very well true. But it's up to AK and Eversley to evaluate what they have and to change this roster in a meaningful way. Going into this offseason, the real people who need to be evaluated, and I hate that I'm going to say this, is AK and Eversley. You talked about how you added DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball at a time where people didn't think you had assets. Cool. You get kudos for that. But what are you going to do now that you've built this team and it seems like you're hesitant to move off these players that you brought into this roster? You look at the Lonzo Ball situation, and while that's not AK's fault, I know some people are going to say, well, you decided to sign a player that had injury prone and injury history. Okay. But what happened and how Lonzo's careers went since he came to the Chicago Bulls is not on AK and Eversley's fault. That's just a victim of circumstance. But you have to make a decision, and the reluctance, if they do have a reluctance to use the career-ending injury exception to get us those assets, to get us that money that we can use to add to this team, that's another indictment on AK and Eversley and them being married to these players and these assets they brought into this team, even when clearly you may need to move on to better and improve this team. That's the biggest people who are going to be evaluated this offseason. Yes, you want to see P. Will, you want to see Kobe, you want to see these players, these young players continue to progress in their offseason and come back with a different mentality. But it's really up to AK and Eversley and how they're going to build and change this roster in this offseason so we're not having another season where we're fighting for the scraps to be the last team in the play-in tournament. That's my thoughts on it. You guys can let me know what you guys think on that one down below. Now, with that being said, in the work that AK and Eversley have to do, right? Which Bulls are most expendable in this offseason? And, just at a bare minimum, not looking at the players that are like heavy rotation players, the players that are the most expendable are Marko Simonovic, Javonte Green, and Carlik Jones. Marko, because apparently you guys drafted a player, albeit in the second round, but he's not able to contribute at an NBA level. The Bulls do not have the talent. The Bulls aren't at a place record-wise. The Bulls aren't good enough to have roster spots where you can just hope you're going to develop a player over 3 years plus. A decision has to be made on Marko Simonovic. If you can't put him out there on the NBA court to sink or swim, he doesn't need to be on this roster. We do not have the roster spots to waste on players. Javonte Green, I love Javonte, and I would much rather see Javonte stay on this team. But when you look at the fact that he is a free agent at 29 years old, that knee injury may affect his market, and maybe you can get him back for cheaper. But you have a player in Derrick Jones Jr. who is cheaper, theoretically, depending on what Javonte signs or re-signs for, they can bring something similar. Now, he's not the energy player. He's not the one-on-one defender that Javonte is. Let me be clear there. But we have to add so much size to this roster that if it naturally pushes DJJ back to his natural position of playing the 2/3, I do think that we have a player that can give you something similar. Now, a decision may be need to make. Maybe you move DJJ or hope that he's going to opt out of his player option. But with him having that player option and only being, I think, $3 million, that's an asset for you. Carlik Jones, you guys gave him an NBA contract. You converted him and haven't used him since. That makes him expendable. But the next question up, outside of the expendable players, I know some people are going to disagree on the Javonte Green thing. That's 100% fine. I kind of disagree with it myself. So with that said, which of the big three come back? Or do you change the roster enough and bring in a point guard and a big man enough who, and that's if you don't re-sign, well, big three will be coming back, so Vooch will be back in what we're saying. But which one of these big three, or what combination of the big three do you bring back, right? Do you move Zach LaVine, who's younger, maybe can get you more out, who's, played better on the back half of the season, has some issues as a player, but he's a player that you re-signed, he has a massive contract. Do you move that just because of the number of the contract and maybe what all the assets you can get back and how many spots you can fill in that? I think that's unlikely. I'm going to put that at a near 0%. 10% Zach LaVine does not return to this team next season. The next one, DeMar DeRozan. And I know a lot of Bulls fans love DeMar, and they look at DeMar as this quote-unquote almost savior for the Chicago Bulls franchise because we made it to the playoffs when he came back and whatever. Listen, DeMar DeRozan is about to be a 34-year-old player with an expiring contract, and the Bulls are so far away from being a championship contending team, I don't think he necessarily just gets a spot back automatically just because of how good he has been for the Bulls. Yes, he's been great. Yes, when he gets his picket spots in the fourth quarter, he's amazing. Yes, when you have a better team supporting him, he looks even better. I understand that, right? But we have to improve the team, and you can't bring everything back unless we want to run another season of continuity. Like I said, is there a world in which every member of the big three come back? Absolutely. But there would have to be so many changes made on the rest of the roster that I don't know if AK is going to have that active of an offseason to do that. Maybe I'm wrong, though. We'll see. Last one, Nikola Vucevic, right? Vooch is the hardest one to really evaluate here. Are the Bulls going to pay what he is probably going to get out in the open market? Does he even want to return to this team with this coach that hasn't necessarily used him correctly, that he's had to change so much of his game to make this team work and make it be viable? Or is Vooch going to go out in the latter half of his career and go try to find him a situation in which he can contribute to a contender, even be it if Vooch has to take some out of his own game, if he has to sacrifice some of his own game, the least you can do is do it for a team that's going to be winning and contending. So there's questions even there in the big three. And then which one of the young players on this team returns or doesn't return? When you look at Kobe White, Another free agent. Could the Bulls force a signing trade? Does he go out and get more money than the Bulls are willing to pay him? I would assume another free agent who's had a sophomore slump. Do you look at saying, hey, we saw some flashes with you, but did he show enough? P. Will, do you move P. Will in a deal that's going to net you back another near star level player and you're going to give up on that potential of P. Will? Dalen Terry, I'm putting Dalen Terry, he's 100% coming back. It would not to say that there isn't a deal, like if a Dame Lillard, if a Jaylen Brown, like if Jaylen Brown becomes available and he wants to come to Chicago and what's stopping you is the Celtics wanting Dalen Terry, you send Dalen Terry. But unless a deal of that level comes available, Dalen Terry is going to be back as well. AK has decisions to make with this season, with this roster this offseason. And we're going to get to see if he's in the position to really make the tough decisions, or does he take another lob and make the easy decisions and bring back remotely, basically the same team. I guess we'll see. It remains to be seen. You guys can let me know what you think on all that down below. But that's it. Let's go ahead and get into the voicemails for today. This first voicemail, this one's from Ray.
Hey, this is Ray from Columbus, Georgia. I just want to say that I'm glad the Bulls got that win over the Lakers. And the guy who sort of surprised me most wasn't Andre Drummond or Zach LaVine or Kobe White. It was Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan surprised me by not getting in his own way. At this point in time, I expect Billy to do double things because, history suggests that he would. But when Boots got thrown out, we knew he was going to have to put Drummond back in, but we also thought that he was going to make DJJ play the 5 for extended minutes because that's what he likes to do. But when he saw that wasn't working, he put Drummond right back in, and he let Andre Drummond work. He let Drummond be the big man for this team. I wish that Don Moore to him down low, because we all know that's not what Anthony Davis want to do. Anthony Davis want to, be the perimeter guy. I'm not going to say he's soft, but he's not a center. He's a power forward. And I'm glad the Bulls, I wish the Bulls would expose that weakness a little bit more, but hey, a win's a win. But I also got, I got a question I want to ask you, what matches are you looking forward to against the Clippers? And a non-basketball question, which of the 3 faces of Mick Foley would you want to see kind of promo against Macho Man Randy Savage? Which personality would be the funniest? It's just something that I was thinking about for a minute, but hit me back when you can.
All right, and Ray left that after the Lakers, as he said, after the Lakers win. Talked about Billy Donovan not getting in his own way, and I love the way that you put that, because Billy Donovan sometimes does get in his own way. It just is what it is. Sometimes, not to say that Billy Donovan overthinks, because I don't know if he thinks enough for me to say that, but sometimes Billy Donovan absolutely just doesn't make the right choice, or he doesn't ride the hot hand, or he makes a weird change to the lineup when we have a lineup out there that's working. He didn't do that in the Lakers game. Now, he's done it in the game since then, which is just, it comes with Billy Donovan. But when it all boils down to this team and the coaching, unfortunately, the coaching isn't changing. Billy Donovan is coming back. This is face reality. He's coming back. And the best thing that AK can do is build a roster that's better suited to whatever Billy wants to run. And hopefully that's not small ball, or you have to insulate the roster against him being so small and put some quality bigs out there that they're so good that Billy has to play them. So that's really the way that I look at it. I could be wrong on that, but hey, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think on Ray's voicemail down below. All right, let's get into this next one. This one's from Big O.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, it's your boy Big O, man, calling in, man. Just got done watching a couple of y'all videos, man. Particularly the video y'all talking about Damian Lillard to the Bulls. Man, I would love to get Dame, especially as good as LaVine and the team in general playing all together. I know you guys brought up 2 scenarios where either one was Zach going or DeMar going, but none of y'all talked about, and I don't even know if it's realistic or not, I'm just going to, throw it out there, but none of you talked about signing, trading Boots and keeping DeMar and Zach, bringing on Damian Lillard. I can't tell you off the top of my head if it'll work with the salary removing Boots, but, and obviously you would need a couple teams to play ball, but in that scenario, that's $20 million of the 45 that you mentioned that Dame is due next season. And I'm just thinking, well, if you can sign and trade Boots, if there's somebody willing to pay Boots, 20-some million, that's had you halfway there, then obviously Derrick Jones, I think he's around $7-8 million. I'm just throwing it out there again. So you'll probably lose a couple more players, but the nucleus of Dame, DeMar, and Zach, I think will be pretty good. I mean, I think that'll put us right there in that Knicks territory, how good the Knicks is. Now, the thing is, you just go get you a defensive-minded center to, play garbage ball. Maybe you bring Drummond back. And I know, you guys talked about how, a defensive-minded or a center that don't shoot, how it would, the offense would be clogged up because of DeMar. Well, guess what? DeMar is knocking down three. And a guy that can shoot as good as he's been shooting from the mid-range, not to say he's going to be shooting as good as Zach or, some of the elite shooters. But at least if he's willing to take and make, a couple of those a game, I absolutely think it could work. But, and I know you mentioned the Lonzo Ball situation, obviously I have to have that come off the book. But yeah, I'm interested in that. I think that's more of a complete competitive squad than with Boots with any of the other two combinations. You know what I mean? Because I think at that point, you got three offensive guards that can go up against any other three in the NBA, especially when you're going up against Boston, who got Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, Smart. We have Lillard, Levine, and DeRozan. You know what I mean? So, the other pieces around there that have to be perfectly fit in, you would need to.
All right. Big O talks about bringing in Dame Lillard. Would that not be a dream for the Chicago Bulls to bring in Damian Lillard? Now, you talk about sign and trading Vooch. Now, keep in mind, sign and trade means that another team would have to sign him. So, unless it's the Portland Trailblazers, you're not really working a Vooch sign and trade in a Dame Lillard deal. And keep in mind also, even if another team does sign Nikola Vucevic and we get some assets back or whatever, it doesn't necessarily free up the perfect amount of cap space. It's not true cap space because we're a little bit over the cap projectedly anyway. So, like I said before, the biggest way that assets that we have that we can get Dame Lillard, unless the Portland Trailblazers just are interested in Vooch, which then, if they're moving Dame, I don't think they're interested in Vooch, but is the career-ending injury exception for Lonzo Ball that will give you $20 million back that you can then use to absorb. Well, you can't because I think that's the designated player exception. So yeah, the career-ending injury exception, you can use that to sign, to trade, whatever. But you still would have to attach a DeMar DeRozan, or you would have to multiple players to get there. And I don't know. That's the thing. It's interesting. Now, it would be extremely difficult to bring in, and you even said DJJ is making like 3.3, not 7. But it's the financials. If Dame wants to come to Chicago, they'll find a way to make the financials work. It just is what it is. Whether it is Lonzo Ball, Lonzo Ball's the career-ending injury exception, or his contract outright, and DeMar get you 95% of the way there, which is good enough, right? Or you're gonna have to move a DeMar or Zach or whatever. It's gonna take a lot to do. But I guess we can hold out hope. I don't necessarily see that it's gonna happen. I don't think that that's a realistic thing that we're gonna get Dame Lillard, but I would love for it to happen. I think Jaylen Brown is probably more realistic, but even then, you still run issues there. So we'll see if the Bulls can bring in Dame and pair him with Zach LaVine. You have a backcourt at that point that has some defensive issues, but you have a backcourt there that can score with the best of them. They may be able to become the best scoring backcourt in the NBA at that point. So how much other scoring do you need on the roster at that point? Do you still need a DeMar DeRozan who primarily is just scoring? I think if you're going to pair Dame with either DeMar or Zach, you need defense on that lineup after that point because you got enough scoring at that point elsewhere on the roster. So we'll see, man. We'll see if the Bulls can get creative. AK gets creative enough to bring in Dame Lillard. Every bit of the things that I throw toward him, I'll take back. But I doubt that's going to happen. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Brian.
Yo, what's good, Hayes? This your boy Brian again. So I got a few things I want to say before tonight's game. Number one, tonight I believe is an important game. Well, every game, just like you said, is important for the Bulls. But this is important more so because I want the Bulls to help Pat Bev keep his word on knocking out the Lakers. Because honestly, all season, I feel like there's been more deserving teams of media attention outside of the Lakers, and honestly, I just don't want to see LeBron, in the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, on the Bulls in particular, right? Yes, everything is not on Billy, but at the same time, the reason why I put the majority of the blame on him is because there are things that this team can do that he does not put any emphasis on, specifically rebounding as a goddamn team, man. Every game we see, whenever a shot goes up, nobody boxes out, everybody's head is getting ready to turn, and they finna go back down court. And that's been one of the main killers on the reason why the Bulls have lost so many games this season. Nobody rebounds as a team. And with that, too many goddamn switching on these pick and rolls. You know, I believe if they play a little bit more man to man, you know, that could definitely alleviate some of the shit that they've been dealing with, getting caught up on unnecessary switches, also getting back in transition defense. That also helps, you know. But then on the offensive side of the ball, yes, I do believe that they need to push the pace a little bit more, you know, not give any of these teams any opportunities to set up in the half court and just keep the pressure going. You know, I think if they play with that mentality like they're down every single possession, I don't give a damn if they are about 20. They need to fucking play like they down about 20. And with that, they could keep that pressure going, you know? But yeah, you know, that's pretty much it, man. You know, team rebounding, man. Limit as many turnovers as they possibly can. Take good, efficient shots. Keep the ball moving, you know. Keep moving the fucking ball around, man. And not get caught up in too many lost possessions, you know. So I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's game, man. And I'll be looking forward to your pregame video and your halftime show. So I'll holler at you. Take it easy.
All right, Brian talks about the Lakers getting unjust media attention. It's just the Lakers, bro. And when LeBron went there, it just made it even worse. The Lakers are already going to get a bunch of media attention, whether LeBron is there or not. Then you throw in LeBron James on that roster as well. Yeah, they're going to get some media attention, unfortunately. But the thing is, when you talk about, you know, the Bulls' lack of rebounding as a team, that's a coaching scheme. Even the so many switches, that's a coaching scheme thing. If you pay attention, and a lot of people blame it just on like P. Will or whatever, but if you pay attention, the Bulls' defensive scheme or offensive scheme specifically, once a shot goes up, most of the players run back to set up on defense because we don't have the best one-on-one defensive players. That's literally been Billy's system since he came to Chicago. We've been doing that, and it's not something I agree with all the time. Like, yeah, there are going to be some, especially when you're already smaller, there's going to be some opportunities where it does make more sense to run down and set up your defense than fight for a rebound that you may not get, and then you get caught out of position. But a lot of Billy Donovan schemes things are in the critiques that you laid out there. And I think that's a problem with Billy. And that's one of my biggest issues with Billy Donovan as a head coach is just those type of scheming issues that don't make sense. Staying to switching when we're clearly getting killed by it. And teams are just getting wide open shots every time we switch or double, right? That's a coaching scheme thing. The lack of rebounding as a team, that's a coaching scheme thing. Now, yeah, there are some players that definitely follow up their shots, and there's some opportunities you absolutely should. But overall, the Bulls, just as a team, don't try for very many offensive rebounds. That is why you see when the Bulls do get a lot of offensive rebounds, we typically win those games. So that goes back to some of my issues with Billy Donovan, but you're spot on in your analysis there overall, Brian. Thank you for leaving that voicemail. Let's get into this next voicemail, the last voicemail for today. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? This is Shay. You know, I was watching the video that you just did when you recapped the Lakers loss. And in it, you said you really want the Bulls to make the play-in, but with how inconsistent we are playing this season, you know, what do we have to gain or something like that? I mean, I might be misquoting it, but you said something like that. You know, I'm here to say this. If we do make the play-in or the playoffs, we have a lot to gain from it. Like, this will show players what we need to do in high-pressure winning situations. And it will show, you know, people what they need to work on in the offseason to make this team a much more winning team. Think about it. Remember when Jimmy Butler was here and he could barely hit a jump shot? All he could do is just drive to the line and hit free throws and make play defense. You know, I think those playoff appearances and the one playoff appearance that he had during his second year made him better, made him focus on what he needs to focus on in the offseason, and he's able to watch tape. And hell, I think with us in the playoffs last season, how inconsistent Kobe White was, it definitely helped him out this season because if you think about it, he was turning the ball over last season, and in this season he ended up showing more improvement on his defense, and he worked on his handles a lot more than what he did, you know, last year. So I think that there is, which I think you probably already know this, it is beneficial for us to make the postseason this year because it will show other players what they need to do in terms of what needs to be done, whether they be on this team or another different team, you know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense to you, because I have a hard time expressing myself or what I'm saying. You probably don't understand what I mean, but, hey, that's just me. Anyway, tell me what you think.
All right, so Shay talks about what the Bulls have to gain from a play-in. And here's what I'm going to say to that. What did we feel the Bulls gained from a playoff series last season? Did Patrick Williams come back playing better like we hoped he'd play even after a playoff series and DeMar DeRozan training him this offseason? Did Kobe White? Okay, we can give Kobe. Did Zach LaVine come off the ground running like we thought he would after Olympics and then a playoff run? No, but again, could be injury there. Did the continuity work over a team that basically the same team made the playoffs and then came back this season? Did that work? The theoretical benefit of a play-in or playoff push is there, right? Learning to fight, learning to go through what needs to happen, how you need to play, how you need to execute, how you need to prepare for playoff games is absolutely true there, right? And I would love to see that. But you mentioned Jimmy Butler. And I think that that's a bad comparison because Jimmy Butler just had the work ethic that he was going to work on his game and improve no matter what happened, right? And I think I see similar ways in Dalen Terry as well, and I hope that comes out. But overall, it's just, I don't necessarily know. Listen, I want to see the team make the plan. I want to see them make that push. I want to see them fight. I want to see them compete. I want to see them do all those things to make a play-in push and hopefully get to the playoffs. I don't know how much hope I have in them making out of the play-in, but hey, I didn't have much hope for them making a play-in recently either, and now that has turned around. At the end of the day, you win what's in front of you, and I do think that AK resigned himself to saying we're going to see whatever the natural conclusion of this season is, and then we're going to make our moves based off that. If it ends up with the Bulls making a play-in push and then getting eliminated and being back in the lottery, so be it. If it ends with the Bulls winning the play-in tournament, coming out of that, going into a playoff series, playing however they play in that playoff series, so be it. It is what it is. It does not change what needs to happen this offseason, and that is the work that needs to be made on the roster this offseason. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below. All right, let's get into this last one. This actually is a text. This one's from JT. JT says, what up, Hayes? This is JT. I saw the Locked On Bulls episode. The question that was asked was, what does P. Will do good? I feel like we won't have an answer until our coach BD is gone. Yes, aggressiveness and mindset on offense plays a part in his development, but BD does a horrible job in coaching scheme and putting players in the best position to blossom. Inconsistent lineups, moving P. Will to the bench, and he's in a position to get the amount of shots that we would want him to because we have Zach Vooch and DeMar on this team. Maybe next year, if we get rid of DeMar and gave P. Will DeMar's spot and position, when we will get a fourth overall type player that we want to see. Tell me what you think. I've said this before. When P. Will gets plays called for him, when he gets double-digit shot attempts, he looks like a completely different player on both sides of the ball. His defensive rating is better. His offense is better. He produces better. I do think that P. Will has suffered from not necessarily being put in the situation that normal fourth overall picks are given. He came to the team with Zach and DeMar, basically. With Zach, at that point, Laurie, he wasn't really used as a rookie to really have a ton of offensive shots. Second year, same thing. He got hurt, went down, things like that. Third year, we're seeing the same exact thing. P. Will is not giving the role offensively or in ball handling or really in anything in a scheme that forces development. Now, again, yes, his mindset and aggressiveness absolutely plays a part. I don't want to take or take away that responsibility from him and what he needs to do. He needs to be aggressive regardless. But when you have a player that you know struggles from confidence, it is up to the coach to build that confidence in a player, and BD does not do that. Let's see if that changes. I still have high hopes. I think that the superstar potential of P. Will, like I said before, I just want to see P. Will become Luol Deng. That type of impact, that type of player, that two-way impact, you bring that, you can play on a team for a decade. So we'll see what happens with P. Will. I still have my hopes on him, not as high as what they once were, but I do think that P. Will is and can be one of those players with a different coach that invests in him a little bit more. We'd be looking at him completely differently. I know not everyone's going to agree on that. But that's it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all, because I'm in all red now. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.